So what's up, people, and welcome to the Chapter 15 discussion of Horino Naka no Soloist, or Soloist in a Cage. So Chapter 15 came out a few days ago, and as always I will leave a link to this chapter that's currently being shown on the publisher's official website, Manga Plus, for free to the North American audience. So if you're interested, yeah, go take a look at it. Okay, so Chapter 15, things are getting heated up pretty well. Yeah. And so we already know that the kids are planning to make their escape during a sermon by the Pope. And we also find out in this chapter that the airship, which we find out is a blimp or a zeppelin or a dirigible, whatever you want to call it, is basically flight ready. So they can go anytime. And the reason they decided to wait for the sermon is because everybody will be at church, and that'll give them the ability to sneak away with the minimum amount of resistance. And so while that's going on, of course, we also know that the other factions are moving. And so what we find out is that the Pope has asked Leo to speak at the sermon. Now, of course, Leo was planning to be on the airship or the ark to fly away, so this creates a dilemma for Leo. And during chapter 15 we see that Leo was ready to sacrifice himself and tell everybody else to escape while he conducts the speech at the sermon. However, the other kids had told him that no, that is not right, that there is always a chance that they will be able to successfully get away even after the sermon, in which case he should not sacrifice himself or give up so easily. They should fight to the very end with regards to getting everybody out onto the ship. And so this is a very interesting discussion that's going on between how much the other kids really look up to Leo and care for Leo, even more so than possibly getting a successful escape. Now, in the meantime, of course, we have the Inquisitors. And what we find out is that, once the airship was ready, the Inquisitors appear at the very end of the chapter to tell the kids that basically they will be going on the airship. And they know all about the fact that it's flight ready. And so they trap the kids at the hangar bay. And Delta basically says that they will be killing one child per Inquisitor so that will open up the space available for the Inquisitors to be able to get away. And of course, at that point, Chloe appears. And oh my gosh, that one scene where you see Chloe start taking out the Inquisitors is such a beautiful scene. Not in terms of course, emotional, but it actually is an artistically beautiful drawing. And if you want to see that drawing, I would suggest that you go to chapter 15 and take a look at it. It is absolutely gorgeous, considering the fact that it is a scene of killing. And of course, this ends with Delta challenging Chloe, and both knowing that one of them will not be coming out of this battle alive. Now, this is very interesting because of the fact that this sets up some very interesting ideas. Eventually, Leo is going to give that speech at the sermon. And what we don't know is whether the Pope really knows what's going on. So will he send some of his people while Leo is giving a speech? We're not sure. But in any case, there's probably going to be some difficulty after he gives that speech to be able to get away. Now the question will come back. Will it end up that Leo will have to stay in prison to let the other kids get away? And will Chloe then decide to stay with Leo in prison? Because of the fact that if basically Chloe and Leo gets away, that really ends the entire series to some extent, right? They're outside of the prison. There really is no dilemma anymore. They are together, and that would be a nice closure. So if that happens, well, that's what's a nice short series. But if Leo ends up being in the prison because he decides that that is the only way to get the other kids out, then of course you know that Chloe's gonna stay behind. And if that's the case, it will end up being the adventures of those two as it keeps on going. Now, it's interesting because of the fact that this is called Soloist in a Cage. Basically one person, not a duet in a cage. And so what will happen? Will Chloe be with Leo? It kind of goes outside of the actual story at that point. So the one other possibility is that we know that Tricot and her brother is also at the sermon, and none of the kids realize that, with the exception of Sebastian. They're not really within that group that will be getting away, but you know that there is a little bit of a relationship between Tricot, the brother, and Chloe. So in the last minute, will the Pope use Tricot and the brother as hostages to somehow stop the escape? And will Chloe leave the group to battle the Pope and free the hostages? In which case Leo and the kids will get away, but Chloe will remain in prison. In which case the rest of the story will probably be about Chloe's adventure of trying to get out of prison with Tricot and her brother. And so it'll be interesting to see how this continues to go on in the long run. But we could see in the short run that, yeah, there's going to be a battle. And it's going to be very interesting to find out how Chloe defeats Delta, because Delta is far more stronger than Hunger. And she had a little bit of difficulty even with Hunger. So it's probably going to be an interesting battle. And the author so far has been pretty good at creating battles that are not one-sided so far. So anyway, I'm looking forward to finding what happens in the future for Soloist in the Cage, and I'll be bringing up more videos as new chapters come out, and I hope you join me at that time. And until then, happy manga reading, and as always, Jaya, nice day everyone.